Well, welcome back to the virtual Canadian Executive Leadership Conference. My name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca and TorontoEntrepreneurs.ca. Hope you've been taking a lot of notes and getting a lot of information from today's speakers. We're on the last leg. We're on the panel, which is always a great time and a great opportunity for you to ask questions, for you to get great advice from experienced entrepreneurs and business leaders. And we're going to start with Madeleine Loewenberg. Madeleine is co-founder, employment and labor lawyer with Loewenberg, Psarris, Workplace Law, LLP. Thanks very much, Madeleine.
Thank you.
And let's get right in. Maybe you can talk about what's been impacting you over the last 19, 20 months. Where are things at for you?
Sure. Well, we're a law practice, so the biggest impact for us has been around closures. All the courts and the tribunals obviously immediately closed, so we had to be flexible in terms of how we assisted clients, how we litigated matters, and in particular, because we are so hands-on and we tend to engage in client visits and site visits, how we would go about continuing to communicate with our clients and to provide them with some level of personal service. And a lot of that, quite frankly, has been managed by platforms like these, where we can see people face to face. And in fact, in some ways, it's allowed us greater access to our clients, in particular, those who aren't in the GTA, who are either across the province or in Ottawa or Northern Ontario. So it's been a bit of a blessing and a curse, but that's really been the biggest impacting us for sure.
Great. And Zoe Scher, CEO at Schmooz Media, CEO at Daddy's Digest, which I obviously want to hear about because last time we talked, you were in the early stages of having your second, and now you've had your second child. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure you're getting lots of sleep these days, right?
Sure, something like that.
So what do you talk about Schmooz, because Schmooz has been around, but also Daddy's Digest, because that's one of your newer platforms, right?
Yeah, so I acquired Daddy's Digest just before I gave birth to my second child, Benjamin, who was born about 7 months ago in 2 days. And I guess the long and the short is that through the pandemic, my whole world has changed. I was, at home with my 3.5-year-old at the onset of the pandemic. My agency, Schmooz, had changed astronomically. And I ended up writing a children's book called ABC Stay Home With Me. And all the proceeds went to frontline workers. And, that as a marketer and a former teacher, that was just a very natural thing for me to do, to try and make positive change at the onset of the pandemic. But it really led me towards this path of focusing on parenting and education again, which of course, as a teacher, teacher who becomes a marketer, I had already done a lot of that, but the pandemic really put a focus on it for me and made me realize that I don't want to just market anything or anyone. I want to do it around the thing I was first passionate about, which is education and parenting and families. And that led me to the opportunity to acquire Daddy's Digest, which is a daddysdigest.com. It's a publication centered on helping fathers to show up for their families and for themselves. And it's got about 1 million followers. And most of my time is now spent there. And frankly, Schmooz is not really the focus at all anymore. So life has changed dramatically, and I'm really happy with the path I'm on.
Excellent. We're going to hopefully dig into a little bit more of that, because one of the key things these days has been pivoting and redirecting and so on. So we'll talk about that and how that's impacted you. Sure. It sounds of it quite a bit. IIya Brotsky, a CEO and founder of VanHack. IIya, you're in the technology space, really. So why don't you talk about technology and how that has changed over time? You're dealing with a lot of technology people as well. So maybe talk about VanHack as well.
Sure thing. Great to be here. So the pandemic's really, maybe backing up, VanHack is really, what we're about is helping companies hire tech talent from around the world. And before the pandemic, it was kind of harder to make that happen because there was always like the local candidates and the global candidates. And these days, that's pretty much gone. It's all kind of one global talent pool, at least for a lot of tech companies, especially when everyone's remote. So now we're seeing companies really be much more open to hiring from anywhere and having the candidate relocate or stay working where they want. So that's been a really big accelerant for our business. Although at the beginning, COVID was very tough because no one was hiring at all. But now we've seen a huge rebound, and people are hiring. Tech companies are hiring like crazy. So it's been a lot of growth, and we're just trying to keep up with everything.
Perfect. Thanks for being on. And Claudia Marion is founder and CEO at KITE, founder and president Stork and Dove and Boons brands as well. So Claudia, welcome, and thanks for being here. And maybe for those that don't know KITE or Stork and Dove and Boons, maybe you can give a little bit of a commercial and talk a little bit about your companies.
Thanks so much. So KITE is a brand of sparkling adaptogenic tea. It actually launched into the pandemic. It launched in March of 2020, and we're doing well, but it's not. I could throw out all of those projections from 2018, 2019 when we were business building. And Stork and Dove has been around quite a bit longer. I launched it in 2016. It's a brand that supports lactation for breastfeeding moms. And I also have a Ben, Zoe, so cool. For my business, and I think a lot of folks have heard this, especially recently, because it's mostly come out recently, what the struggles have been. And it's been very much connected to every aspect of what we do. So we have the supply chain just for packaging, the supply chain for ingredients, manufacturing. We can't get people to help us, manufacture. I can't get anybody in my warehouse. Just getting folks out in the past 2 years, nearly 2 years, has been really hard. So just getting product to market, and now we're starting to hear so much about the other side of that and the inflation for food and beverage. Unfortunately, a lot of things are grandfathered in our industry as well. So just changing prices can be pretty hard. So we're seeing, it's not. I expect it to be another 2 years before this starts to change, because there's certainly a huge backlog in just supply and demand. People are hoarding corrugate right now, and it's driving the price up because people are so afraid that that they just can't get it. That's kind of where I am. It's scary, but we keep look at the North Star, and we'll get through it.
It seemed like not that long ago there was a shortage of wood, remember, for like decks and all that kind of stuff. Is that still the case as far as what you see, or?
Frankly, there's every week there's a new shortage of something, and it's 3 cents here, 2 cents there for my cost of goods. With corrugate, it was literally like 25, 30, 40 cents. It's just kind of the flavor of the week, what's happening. I've got so many letters from my manufacturers just telling me, or emails just telling me, hey, this has gone up in price, we're gonna have to adjust. I'm still trying to launch products to market, and it's really hard to find a price point when it's just a moving target right now.
Right. So if you have any questions for anybody on the panel, feel free to post them in the event or in the stage area, and I'm happy to moderate them from here. So maybe Zoe, let's start with you, and having launching or maybe relaunching, rebranding your about branding and business and how to portray yourself, right? So maybe for those that are watching, and even the other panelists, just what are some tips? What are some takeaways? What are some things that you would suggest doing in this kind of market?
I mean, it's a really timely question for me because I'm changing my focus. And so just a few weeks ago, I sent out an email to my client list of the past 7 years, just letting everyone know, like, hey, Zoe's shift is here, and she's going to be taking, she'll be available for independent consulting at Schmooz through Schmooz moving forward. But she's really focusing on this Daddy's Digest brand. And I felt really good about people responding because their response was, oh, this makes a lot of sense. That's awesome. I'm so glad you're creating the space for yourself to be successful. And the thing that, we're very clear that you're passionate about. And so I think like from a personal brand perspective, whatever move you make, if you're showing up as yourself wherever you go, it won't surprise people as you evolve through your journey, right? So I remember when I started Schmooz and people were like, this 20-something know-it-all who, you know, went to business school for a year and taught kindergarten for a year, and now she thinks she can charge money and I'll pay her to do her marketing. And I really had no idea why they were paying me either. But then showing up like that and starting to ask those questions publicly, like, hey, you know, someone today really questioned my value and I wasn't sure how I felt about that. And then building a community around that, and then having a child and saying, hey, you know, I'm not going to take a mat leave. I like being the CEO better than mat leave. So like really saying, you know what, I'm going to be me throughout whatever happens. Then the rest of the narrative works itself out because there's no lie there. It's not some story you have to craft. It's just the journey you're on. So I really feel like if the journey you're on with your business is that things have changed, don't be afraid to say things have changed. Of course, things have changed. Your company, your community might be skeptical if everything's just perfect. So I think as change happens and as struggle happens, you're going to find customers trust you more if you're able to show behind the scenes a little bit. Does that answer your question?
That's fantastic. That was perfect. Spot on. So Madeleine, you talked about earlier about changing communications, courts closed. So, and then, you know, communicating with clients and how that changed. You know, I think of a law firm and lawyers, and traditionally it's more, you know, phone calls, in person and so on. So how, you know, what kind of changes did you have to take in order to accommodate or adapt to that? Because it happened so suddenly, right?
Yeah, we were lucky in that our law firm, Betty and I are fairly tech savvy. Betty's my law partner. And we have always been largely virtual, largely paperless. And so when other businesses and firms were trying to figure out how to get online and how to use the technology, we were fortunate enough to already be relatively familiar with it and able to get up and going. There are a lot of tools for businesses like these platforms where you can get online and meet with people. You can do litigation, and out of the litigation context for other people who run businesses, you can hold large meetings with breakout rooms, and you can exchange documents and share screens via Zoom, just like you can in person. It just takes some flexibility, and it takes some willingness to be engaging. It can get boring, quite frankly, online all day, especially if you're in a court-like proceeding. You stay organized and focused on what you're working on. You try to stay engaging with the people you're working with. And then in terms of, you know, things like training and conversation meetings and things we typically would do in person pre-COVID, you just make those offerings available for people who are looking to engage with others online. And I think there has been a lot of uptake in networking online and meeting each other this way. People are craving that connection. I think people are really craving getting back to face-to-face, but until then, they're craving the ability to get in touch this way, if no other way.
Yeah, good points. So kind of open questions now, just, you know, whoever wants to jump in, maybe I'll call some people if nobody wants to actually answer, but you know, we've obviously gone through a major change. Some things are going to come back. Hope maybe some things won't come back the way that we know them from before. You know, IIya, maybe you know, you can talk about your side. From a labor perspective, the world has changed. People are maybe more open to remote work. So what, you know, maybe kind of talk about how the world has changed from your eyes in terms of through COVID, and do you think things will go back to where we were, or are we just in a new path and charting? Maybe start with you, IIya, because you're seeing it from the labor perspective first.
I really don't think this is going to go back to the way it was before in terms of office culture. I think that's gone. I think there'll probably be a hybrid culture where a lot of companies do have offices that are kind of used when needed or very rarely, kind of mandate people to go to the office. I think people really like the flexibility that comes from work from home, and we've seen a lot of companies lose employees when they start forcing people to go to a place that they don't need to go to make to their jobs. So that's totally done. And it's for the better, I think. Like companies can save on real estate costs. They can hire people from all over the world, so their talent pool is much broader. And the office is there if you need it. So if you do want a break from family life at home, etc., you do need that infrastructure, you can go to the office. It's there. It's all about giving people choice and flexibility and letting them do what they want so they can perform the best work for you.
Yeah, for sure. Great points. Anyone want to add anything to that in terms of changes, maybe office culture? Claudia, you talked about the warehouse. Maybe talk a little bit about, do people want to work from home? Obviously, if you have a warehouse, they can, but what changes have you had to take with respect to employees?
With respect to the employees, early on, we really divided and conquered. So, just minimal employees in the warehouse and just really aware of each other. My employees have said they really miss me being in there. I've mostly worked from home. I have, even now still after the vaccinations, I have a child still under 12. So I'm still working from home and kind of maintaining minimal contact and just being aware, as we all should be. So that it's just the connectivity of, like you said, it's that live connectivity, just the real life. I actually had quite a bit of burnout from between like Clubhouse rising at the same time as the Zoom culture. I just found it just like overwhelming. And what I found was that as soon as it hit 5 o'clock in California, everything on Clubhouse turned on and people were networking there. And I'm just like, wow, this is in my space. It's very, for all of us, I suppose, it's very important to network. And we have just such, and just networking in industry to drive things forward. We miss it, I guess, in a nutshell. But just getting through that kind of overwhelming stage of it and learning, KITE is all about well-being and just kind of trying to reflect on that and say, okay, how do you time out? How do you, moderating ourselves within this and really acknowledging that, when to turn things off. And it's interesting that that's come into talk politically now, where people are saying, do folks have a right to just, not pick up the phone on a Thursday after 5? And I've always been quite a 24/7 worker, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. So just trying to draw the lines and balance this culture. But like IIya said, I do believe a lot of this will be here to stay in certain businesses. That is for sure.
And if I can, Marc, there's interestingly, the provincial government's just introduced legislation. I think it's its second reading, so it's not law yet, but they're contemplating creating this law that would require employers over a certain size to have right to disconnect policies. Which would require them, literally the right to put your phone down, to close your computer screen. It's interesting, and I think a lot of people would applaud it. I actually have concerns about it in that for my clients, who are basically all employers, we're a management side employment firm, we have employers that are struggling with the fact that some people don't want to come back to work and they want them back. And then others who say, okay, well, we're prepared to give everybody this flexibility, which people seem to crave, but what do we do if the provincial government makes it really tough to give them that flexibility by introducing these right to disconnect laws? And as it is now, of course, any time you spend off work working for your employer should be paid time, but it just kind of muddies the water in a time where there's already a lot of uncertainty and people are struggling with what they are going to do in the new year or even sooner when it comes to, hopefully the pandemic quieting and things opening up again.
Yeah, I'd love to weigh in on that. Just to everyone's points, my staff grew through the pandemic at the agency, and the amount of stress and burnout I had as the leader, trying to do the right thing for my staff and not exploit their hours and their emotional needs. Like, I'm a very self-aware person, and I was like, okay, but if I let them all leave right now and not finish this project, I'm going to be doing it until midnight or 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I have I'm 9 months pregnant. So these boundaries, figuring out what your personal boundaries are as the leader, as well as talking about the boundaries of your team, it shifted the way, like, agency is always a challenging model. I'll be completely honest with you, but the extra time we needed to take to communicate about every single creative piece going out on social media, that time became very disruptive to our margins. And so I have no need to push people back into office, but it's also not a business that will continue to serve me and my mental health if I continue to put all my eggs in that basket. So I think there's like this really big, I don't know for the rest of you guys on the panel, but for me, there's this like ethical dilemma in my head, like treat your employees really well or treat yourself well. And it's felt for a long time through this pandemic, you choose one or the other. And I feel like you guys are nodding, but I'm just making that up because I want to feel less alone. I don't want to have to choose putting myself in a bad position for my family and my children's sake, or for my own sake, because I'm worthy, woohoo. But I also don't want to treat other people badly as a result. So it's just very confronting because even though these issues existed before the pandemic, I think everything is heightened. And I'm not complaining about it. It's just where we're at.
All right. Great points. We just have a few minutes left here. So I wanted to take a quick, maybe go around real quick to each of you and, thinking about a word or a term that we've had over the last, 19, 20, 21 months now, pivoting, reset, Zoom fatigue. So what word or phrase would you describe what's going on right now? How do you feel as business owners? What is top of the mind? What's the first thing that you think about when I say that? Claudia, why don't we start with you?
I think of this article I read long ago about the London cab driver and how that, they've got so many roots and thoughts in their head all the time. Because London's very complicated to drive and they have to know every part of it. And I feel like I'm becoming like the entrepreneur, the CPG version of the London cab driver. I'm just like opening up new ways every day, and the amount of apps out there and such. I went into this pandemic thinking, really I'd been trying to lead my business to one point of information, and now it's just like everything's just blown up because everything is like an app, a plugin, this and that, and it's mind numbing for me. So yeah, I think of the London cab driver, and I know in the end, I'll my brain will be stronger for it, but it doesn't feel great today, that's for sure.
Well, there's definitely no playbook for a pandemic, is there?
No, there
How
isn't.
about IIya, a word or phrase that you would try to encapsulate everything that's going on right now, or what's on the top of your mind?
I think similar to a few points brought up earlier, the topic of balance has been on my mind a lot. I also have a newborn, and working at home, generally just trying to figure out life. When do I have my time to focus? When I have time to be with family, and then the same with my team, making sure that they're feeling that balance too. So it is tricky, but I think it's possible. So yeah, that's what I've been thinking about a lot recently.
Good points, Madeleine. Any word or phrase that comes to your mind?
Yeah, for me, growth. It's not that I've enjoyed the pandemic. That's a terrible thing to say. People really struggled, but I've enjoyed some of the challenges that the pandemic's brought, and learning my way through how my law firm's going to run. And I think we've come out better for it, to be honest. I've enjoyed getting to know my clients in a different way. I've enjoyed learning how to litigate in a different way. I've enjoyed marketing in a different way. For me, as a business owner, it's been, from the business perspective, a relatively positive experience, and it's taught me a number of new skill sets. So I'd say growth for me.
Anyone else want to add anything? We got about a minute left here.
I just want to say what my word would be.
Yeah.
I would say my word would be simplify. I relate to everything that everyone has said here. Letting things go because they don't serve you is not about success or failure financially. It's about showing up for your life the way you want to. And that's why I feel so confident and centered around Daddy's Digest, because that's what I want to put out into the world. So, this month is Movember. And so it's all about men's mental health. And I truly believe that, like, if I can focus on helping one man take care of himself so that he can show up for his family and support his partner, or maybe he's a single dad, or maybe he's a gay dad, and maybe he's a divorced dad, whatever he is, that's going to impact that child. And that is just like, rather than 100 sticky notes in front of me, is what I'm doing every day, working toward that. And I love it. So great.
Excellent. Well, really great. Thanks very much. Thanks to each of you. Thanks to everybody for coming to the virtual Canadian Executive Leadership Conference. Today's event presented by TorontoJobs.ca and TorontoEntrepreneurs.ca and powered by Event Logic with a K.ca. My name is Marc Belaiche, president of TorontoJobs.ca and TorontoEntrepreneurs.ca. Our panelists, Madeleine Loewenberg, co-founder, employment and labor lawyer with Loewenberg Psarris Workplace Law LLP, Zoe Scher, CEO at Schmooz Media and CEO at Daddy's Digest, IIya Brotsky, CEO and founder at VanHack, Claudia Marion, founder and CEO at KITE, founder and president of Stork and Dove and Boons brands. So thanks to each of you. How did you like the event? Let us know. We'll send you a survey to complete in the next 24 hours. I want to thank all the speakers and from today. A lot of great information and a lot of great vibe. It's good to connect with people. I know it's a little bit different, obviously, with video and interaction that way. But nonetheless, just a quick note on our sponsors and exhibitors, TorontoJobs.ca. If you have any staffing needs, email sales@TorontoJobs.ca, TorontoEntrepreneurs.ca. Feel free to visit the website if you're an entrepreneur. Guhuza, Guhuza, is a new recruiting platform. Check that out. And Event Logic with a K.ca if you'd like to sponsor, exhibit at, or speak another event. And I also want to thank our event supporters. IPMHR was founded in 2005 to create meaningful work for each and every employee that is aligned with strategic intent. Presentations Inc. provides customized group and team training, one-on-one personalized instruction and conference speaking. Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario. Check them out. They had the presentation earlier on today, but they deliver programs and services to support innovation and economic growth in Southern Ontario, which is Canada's most populous region. And Coaching with KITE. You want to achieve more in less time, get close to your lifestyle, and feel productive daily instead of stress and overwhelm. Upcoming events, we have the Canadian Virtual Sell Your Business Conference happening on Wednesday, December 15th. You can get more information about that event by visiting Event Logic with a K.ca. And reach out to us on TorontoJobs.ca and TorontoEntrepreneurs.ca. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can also connect with me as well on LinkedIn. And we do tack on an extra 10 minutes if you're interested in heading into the networking area. You still have some time to do that if you still want to meet one more person before the day is out. Feel free to do that. And thanks again to each of you. And I really appreciate your time.
Thanks.